Fanatic. I'm your host, Dave Dalton, and I'm excited to share my passion and perspective of our Detroit Pistons as we go on this fantastic voyage together. I've been a diehard Piston fan since the days of Dave Bing and Bob Lanier. I've also been the varsity basketball coach of a very successful program in northern Michigan. Thank you very much for listening. Please subscribe. It'd mean a lot to me if you would subscribe and click on that like button. Today we're going to talk about the draft, and will the Pistons be able to draft Buzelis or Zachary Risacher, and those are the two guys that I want them to get, and we're going to discuss will they be available at the number 5 pick. So they might both be picked, but we're going to dive into that. First, Trajan Landon, that's rumored, one of the guys that are on the Pistons' radar for the new president of basketball operations, who we don't have yet. We need one. We just had, they just had the combine. We should. I'm sure we had people represented there, but not who might be in the front office. So this guy might come in and hire a new general manager and might hire a new coach. And so we needed to get this going before the draft. And, hopefully it'll happen sooner than later. But Trajan Landon he's from Anchorage, Alaska, and he played at Duke. And I remember when he came out of Alaska, and it was a big deal. And he was first team All-American at Duke and had a great career there and shot the three really well. But he was like the 11th player picked in the draft by Cleveland, and he played like only 3 years in the NBA, and he played overseas a lot. So he's had to be a grinder. But he served in a lot of different capacities for various different teams in the NBA, and now currently he is the general manager for the Pelicans. But I'm sure he has a lot of responsibilities, but David Griffin is their vice president, and he has final say on everything. So that's what, Trajan would end up doing with Detroit. He'd have the same role that David Griffin has in New Orleans, where he would make the final decision. So it'll be interesting to see what happens. Another interesting thing is ESPN had Bronny James projected as the 54th player on their draft board, and the Pistons picked 53rd. Yeah, but I'm sure we're not going to take him. And there's a lot of things about him. He didn't play that great at USC. He's undersized. He had that heart condition. He can shoot okay, but he's not a great ball handler. And so, I think there's way too much discussion about him, so I'm not going to go on any further. But shout out to Jared Goff. He just signed with the Lions 4 years, $212 million with $170 million guaranteed. So the Lions are locking up all their star players. They got St. Brown, and they got their big offensive tackle. They're in great shape going forward. But we're going to talk a lot about Buzelis and Zachary Risacher. Are they going to be available? And let's first look at the draft board. Who's ahead of us? It's the Hawks, Wizards, and Rockets and Spurs are the 4 teams picking before us. So Sarr is speculated to be the number 1 player. It's a consensus, that he'll be the number 1 player picked. But just last night, all the front office from Atlanta was overseas at Risacher's game, sitting right on half court and watching him play, and he had a really good game. He shot the lights out, and he's big, 6'9.5" with shoes on, but he's a tall guy. He likes to play defense. He's pretty good, but we're going to dive into him a little bit more later. But the Hawks. So the Hawks have Clint Capella and Onyeka Okongwu. So are they going to want another big guy? A lot of people think they will. And another thing that people are speculating, though, if they don't take him, they might take Risacher. So we don't know. The Wizards are loaded with forwards, and they had Denny Adbia, who had a great year last year, and Kuzma had a good year, and Kispert. They're all forwards. And so do they want to draft another wing? And they have Bilal Coulibaly, who was their first pick last year. So there's 4 forward wing guys right there. So they might not want. They have more need of a center or a point guard. So Toppich was the big guy, the point guard, the tall guy. He's injured right now, but he is high on everybody's draft boards, and we're going to talk about Nikola Topic in a second. But he would make a good fit for them. And if Sarr gets picked, isn't there on the number 2 pick, the Wizards need a center. They traded away Gafford, and so they really, they have they don't have a center. They have Marvin Bagley, but he had a good year for them. But so anyway, they would be in need of a center if Sarr's still there. Or could they take another center? Could they take Donovan Klingman? So they could take him at number 2. So he could go in the top 4. So for sure, it sounds like Topic or Saar will both for sure go in the top 4. It's like almost guaranteed that those two guys will be. So that leads only 2 spots to be picked, and it's not likely that both those 2 spots will be taken by Buzelis or Risacher. So we have a great chance, I think, of getting one or the other. And the Rockets. So the Rockets, do they need a wing? So they picked number 3. They got Jabari Smith Jr., Cam Whitmore, Dylan Brooks, Amen Thompson, Tari Eason, and some other guys that could all play the wing. And so it seems like they need a point guard or a center. So they could take Klingman, but they could take Topic, or some people are speculating that they need shooting, that they could take Reed Shepherd with the number 3 pick. So that's been rumored, and he's a smaller guard, and we'll talk more about him later. And yeah, the Spurs, they could take anybody with, they had the 4th and 8th pick. The Spurs are so stinking lucky. It makes me mad. They got the 4th and 8th pick. Both picks they had to move up, and they got one from, I think, the Raptors, the 8th pick. And so they just got lucky the way the lottery balls fell for them. And so they could take Risacher or Buzelis, but still, the other one still would be left over. So we just got to hold our breath and see. I'm really hopeful that we will get one or the other. And it's just going to be nerve-wracking for me, though, because I really want one or the other. And so, Saar, here's what we're going to look at right now. We're going to look at all the different draft boards, the top players, and how different and why this is such a wild, crazy draft. There's the only consensus really is that Saar is number 1 and that Topic is way high. But we're going to listen. So, Saar, No Ceilings has him number 1, ESPN number 2, Yahoo number 1, Tankathon number 3, Athletic number 1, and The Ringer number 1. So that's really consensus, I would say. Nicole Topic is No Ceilings number 2 player, ESPN number 5, Bleacher Report number 3, Yahoo 4, Tankathon 1, Athletic 2, and The Ringer 2. So you see he's ranked really highly. The third player that if you took a combination of all these different sites would be Reed Shepherd. And but like I said, the weird thing is, so Nicolo Topic, he's number 5 on ESPN's, and he's number 1 on Tankathon. So there's quite a disparity there. But Reed Shepherd, number 5 in No Ceilings, 7 by ESPN, number 2 by Bleacher Reports, Yahoo 9, Tankathon 4, Athletic 4, and Ringer 7. So he's got a number 2 and he's got a number 7. So that's another big range for him. Donovan Klingman, he was played on Connecticut's national championship team, and he is big dude, and he is active, and he loves to block shots. He loves to play defense. He's a good passer, and he's a good lob threat. And so a lot of people think that he will not make it past number 4. And if he does, there's still a good chance the Pistons might take him. But anyway, No Ceilings has him 4, ESPN 3, Bleacher Report has him all the way down at 11. Yahoo has him at 3. So there's 8 spaces between Yahoo at 3 and Bleacher Report at 11. So Tankathon has him at 5, Athletic has him at 5, and The Ringer has him at 8. Then our guy Risacher is No Ceilings has him at 6, and ESPN has him number 1. Bleacher Report number 9. So, and then Yahoo number 2, Tankathon 2, Athletic 8, and The Ringer 12. So there's a variance between number 1 by ESPN and number 12 by The Ringer. And those people are smart. They're nobody's perfect, and it's going to be fascinating to see how this actually falls. Stephen Castle, it's funny, at the combine, they measured people and they posted the heights of guys. And so Castle got measured, they said, at 6'2". And so they had to take it down because he's really, I can't remember now what he measured at, but it was like 6'5", 6'6". So, but he was number 3 on No Ceilings, 9 on ESPN, 10 on Bleacher Report, 6 on Yahoo, 7 on Tankathon, 3rd in the Athletic, and 3rd with The Ringer. So he's got a discrepancy between third or up all the way down to 10. Rob Dillingham and he's small, so him and Reed Shepherd measured only like about 6'1", or less than 6'2", I think, and so but he can really score the ball. Rob Dillingham is an electric player that can really score at all levels, but he's No Ceilings number 8, ESPN 4, Bleacher Report 5, Yahoo 8, Tankathon 6, Athletic 10, Ringer 4. So there's a range between 4 and 10. And then my guy, Montes Buzelis, No Ceilings has him rated at 12. And they like him, but they have him rated at 12. And he blocked them on Twitter, on X. They got a big kick out of it. He blocked them. They thought that showed that he was a little bit feisty, but that's way down there. But anyway, ESPN had him at 6, Bleacher Report 6, Yahoo 5, Tankathon 8. So he has quite a range. The Ringer had him at 5, and the Athletic had him at 6. So I just think he's a really good player. Dalton Connect, he's another guy I really like. He's No Ceilings had him at 9, ESPN 8, Bleacher Report 13, Yahoo 11, Tankathon 10, Athletic 11, Ringer 11. So again, big variance in his projected draft spot. My guy, though, I talked about last episode, the wild card, and the guy I think that could be the big surprise. 4 years from now, Tejan Salon, and he is 6'10", freak athlete, plays his butt off. He just had a game. He's 18 years old, scored 19 points, 8 rebounds, 3 assists. He shot 65.5%, and he's a freak athlete, and he has so big upside, but a lot of people think he's really raw and he needs a lot of work, and so it could be a project. And so that's the problem. Pistons can't draft a project. That's, we know that we're there. If we had extra pick, if we were lucky like the Spurs and we had the 4th and 8th pick, I would take him at 8, and I would take, Buzelis or Risacher at 4. So, but anyway, Buzelis is 19 years old and 6'10", and he measured out real high and all the different things. So he actually, without shoes on, he measured 6'8" in 3/4. So, he's almost 6'9", and with shoes on, he's 6'10". So that's, players play in their shoes. So say 6'10" or taller, and he wants to play the 3 or 4. So that's the big difference. So even with him and Risacher's, at least at this point, is more of a 3. I think he will be able to play the 4. But Buzelis is far better shot blocker. He has great instincts. Buzelis can get up quick. He can get up 1 foot or 2 foot. He's got great timing, just great quickness. And he averaged for the G League Ignite, he averaged 14.4 points, 6.5 rebounds, 2 assists, but over 2 blocks. And that's tough to do in that league. And then he got over a steal per game. But the downer is he shot only 27% on threes. And so I'm sounding hypocritical because I constantly preach, we got to get a shooter. But I think that he will be a shooter. There's some difference. There's one podcaster that talks about, Asar shot great at the end of the year for the G League and in their playoffs. Well, he did 4 games. So he said, I thought for sure he'd shoot better in the NBA because he shot good at the end, but that was 4 games. But Buzelis shot great when he was in high school, and he played at one of these academies, Sunrise Academy, that had played against the best competition in the country, and they are really, really good, and he shot like close to 45% on threes. So he has a good stroke. A lot of people believe in his shot. I'd love to see him shoot up close and personal, but he loves to play defense. We in the NBA now, you're going to need a guy he's 6'10". Maybe he can't quite stay with Chet or Wemby. I don't think anybody will be able to, but he's the kind of guy that's at least a little bit taller that can try to stay in front of those guys and compete with them. He said he wants to play like Jaden McDaniels, and Jaden McDaniels is playing right now. The Timberwolves are playing against, they're blowing out the Nuggets, but it's not the second half yet, but they're winning by over 20. And McDaniels is one of the best defenders. He's underrated. A lot of people don't hear about him because he plays in Minnesota, but he's 6'10", 6'11", and he can shoot the 3 really well. And he doesn't put the ball on the floor as well as Buzelis does, I don't think, but he can really protect the rim. And so that's a great guy that, just the fact that Buzelis looks up to him. Buzelis is going to blow everybody away. If you go to Google and listen to his interview, he is a very impressive young man. Everybody that's I've listened to said that all over the league, people are impressed with how he conducts himself and how he talks and handles himself. So I'm worried. I'm worried that he's going to move up and someone's going to get him before we do. But he's got good handles, really good handles, for a big guy, and he's pretty smooth and he's got a nice fluid shot. He's an underrated ball handler. He's got a soft touch, 3-level scorer, good basketball IQ, likes to play team basketball, and like I said, everybody raves about him. And so he had a 38-inch vertical, so he can get up. And if you watch his highlights and film on him, he gets up fast and quick, and he can go and transition and just fly. And so I'm excited about him, and we'll just hope that he's available. And if not, Zachary Risacher, his dad was 6 times All-Star in France. Risacher's only 19 years old too, and he's 6'9.5" with shoes on. So he's about an inch shorter than what Buzelis is, and he has 6'10.5" wingspan. According to BetMGM, he's got the second best odds after Sarr to be the number 1 player picked. So we'll see what they know. But he slumped at the end of the year, so he would be maybe number 1, Risacher. But the last month or so of the season, he struggled a little bit shooting. But he was shooting like 45. He was just on fire for most of the year. He played more games than almost anybody, and he played in a professional league with grown men. And after his slump, he's shooting 39%. And I don't know if I mentioned it already. The last 4 games, he's 6 for 12. So he's turning it back around. And, like I said, I've been saying it all along over and over again, what the Pistons need and what they want. And it's a 6'9", 6'11" guy that can play defense and shoot the 3. And we are rolling the dice a little bit. And I'm sounding a little bit hypocritical because I didn't want players that can't shoot. And, there's some other guys that, that can shoot a little bit, but not very good, that are good defenders, like Stephen Castle. He's one of the toughest defenders. He played for UConn too, and they won the national championship. And he's a great, great player, but he can't shoot, and he's like 6'6". And so, it's not what we want. We need somebody. We already have, a Sarr. So he's kind of like a Sarr, but I don't think he's as good as a Sarr. So we'll see. He's probably a better ball handler. But Dalton Connect's the guy, though, that if everything doesn't work out, he is, here's another thing. So Dalton Knecht is projected, I think I told you some people had him 9th, 8th, 13th, 11th, 10th. My thing is, if it's a guy that you want or need, then you move up and you take him. If you can't trade back, I guess we could try to trade back if Risacher or Buzelis aren't there at 5. I would maybe try to trade back. But it's trading back and making any trades. I always say this on this podcast. It takes 2 teams. So it's always easier said than done. It's something that fans and podcasters always say, let's trade back, or let's trade the pick, or let's trade Ivy, or let's trade Duran. Well, you can trade them, but you got to have another team that wants them and that wants to give you something that you want. So that's always the hard thing. But Connect blew everybody away at the combine, and he measured out at 6'5" and a quarter with no shoes on. So, and he had a 6'11" wingspan, but he was a freak athlete in all the skill. He had the best agility time and shuttle run time. So that's lateral quickness, and his speed in the 3/4 court sprint was one of the highest, and he had a 39-inch vertical, which is really impressive. So he is such a shooter, man. He played in the SEC, and everybody was just trying to stop him. His Tennessee's offense was really limited, so they knew that he was the guy, and he could shoot. Like I said, we see guys that like Stu and Sarr, they leave them wide open. They get wide open. Nobody left Dalton Knecht open, man. They were right up in his grill and contesting him, and they put their best defender on him, and he could get to the rim. Again, he's explosive. but he can shoot the three. He's an amazing shooter. He's got high release, high arc, and he just is an unbelievable shooter. And so with his athleticism, there's a little bit of skepticism on his defense, but he transferred. He played at a junior college, and he played at a small D1 college, and then he goes to Tennessee. Why did he pick Tennessee? Because he knew they played great defense, and he wanted to go somewhere so he could become a better defender. And so just that attitude. I mean, I was a coach for over 40 years, and there's a lot of instincts there. And again, that's what we see with Duren. He obviously has no defensive instincts, and we need to talk about him more later in another episode. But maybe Connect doesn't have the greatest instincts, but he wants to be great at defense, and he has athleticism. He's a superb athlete, one of the best at the combine. So I hope you like this episode, and we're going to talk more about the draft. I'm just going to be crushed if we don't get Buzelis or Risacher, but I know you probably have somebody else that you like. I also wouldn't be sad if we got Donovan Klingman, and he's 7'1" and 3/4 without his shoes on. And again, he's just a great shot blocker. The funny thing is, Zach Edey from Purdue, he's 2 or 3, probably 3 years older than Klingman, but he measured out 7'3" and 3/4 without his shoes on. He's a monster, and he had long reach, but he out-tested Klingman. If you watch Klingman play and Edey play, you think that there's no way that Klingman's faster than Edey. But on the test that they did, the shuttle run and the sprint and all those things, Edey was faster. But those are valuable to a point, but they don't tell everything about how a player reacts on a court. Is a little bit different. This basketball speed versus just flat-out running speed with a stopwatch. So, it will be fascinating to see where Edey goes, though, because I think he can come in and play, 18 minutes to 20 minutes for a team and make a big difference. So, but I'm not a proponent of the Pistons drafting him, but I would take Klingman if, Risacher or Buzelis are gone at the number 5 spot. I wouldn't be opposed to that. Reed Sheppard tested really high. But he's shorter than everybody thought, so he was only like 6'1.5" or something. But his vertical was 42 inches, which is crazy. And he blocked a lot of shots in college, but he blocked guys' jumpers, and they didn't expect him to be able to get up that high. I don't think so. And he stole the ball real good. He's a phenomenal basketball player. There's just not too many 6'1" guys that are, or 6'2" guys that are good in the NBA, and we need shooters, but I think we could do better getting someone else. So anyway, thank you for listening. Be the reason that somebody feels cared for, and go Pistons.